بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to have this session from the holy city of Qom, while some of our brothers and sisters are also in Mashhad. Alhamdulillah, inshallah they will come tomorrow to Qom. We have been remembering all KLC brothers and sisters during ziyarat in Iraq, and I am sure in Mashhad also our brothers and sisters remember all of you. So we continue our study of history of Shia Islam, and in particular we start lesson 2 of volume 2, which covers the history of Shia from the 6th to the 9th century. So we discuss 6, 7, 8 and 9 centuries. First, we start with the Shiite dynasties, and then inshallah we'll talk about ulama and other issues. The first dynasty that we discuss is what we call Ilkhanids. They ruled from 651 up to 731 Hijri, and for almost 1 century they ruled over Iran, Iraq, parts of Sham and Minor Asia. Altogether, there were 9 rulers in Ilkhani dynasties. 4 of them embraced Islam. The rest remained in their own religions. They used to have a kind of primitive Tawheed, but then some of them became Buddhists. We will talk about it inshallah later. So 4 of them embraced Islam, and out of these 4, 2 of them were inclined towards Shia Islam, and 1 of them officially became Shia, and that is Oljaito, Sultan Muhammad Khuda Bande. During the time of Allami Hilli, he became Shia. Inshallah we'll talk about the story and his encounters with Allama Hilli. When he became Shia, he made many services, removed the pressure upon the Shia, and he built many places, and also helped with the restoration of the shrines, etc. We'll talk about it gradually. But even some of those Ilkhanids who were not Shia, they had influential Shia scholars in their court or darbar. For example, Hulaku Khan, one of the very famous of this family or dynasty. These are all Mongols originally from Mongolia. So Hulaku Khan had Khaja Nasir-ad-Din Tusi as a very respected and established scholar in his darbar, and with the help of Hulagu Khan, Khaja Nasiruddin Tusi made very important historical observatory in Maraghe, the city of Maraghe, northwestern Iran. Hulagu Khan is the one who attacked Baghdad and even killed the Abbasid Caliph. They were very powerful. We will talk about the story of why they attacked Iran, etc. So Ayatollah Mutahhari, in one of some of his books, for example, he mentions that how Mongols who conquered many parts of Muslim world, they embraced the religion of people that they ruled over. It's interesting. This shows the power and beauty of Islam. Normally, those who are controlling and conquering, they impose their religion on the lands that they conquer. But in the case of Mongols, it was the opposite. The army, the commanders, the ministers, some of even the rulers, they embraced Islam. The first Ilkhani ruler who became Muslim was Tagodar, or Sultan Ahmad. When he became Muslim, they gave him the name Sultan Ahmad. He restored mosques, and some of the people who were still in their original religion from their tribes, they were very upset that why you embrace Islam and then support Islam and restore mosques, etc. Therefore they made uprising and killed him. After Tagodar, the grandson of Hulagu Khan, whose name was Arghun Khan, became the ruler. And in this period, it is said that some of the Jewish people took power, had great influence on the system, and some of the Muslims were also ruled out from Darbar. But then in the time of Ghazan Khan, the seventh Ilkhanid ruler, situation changed. Here he embraced Islam again and chose the title Mahmud. And from the beginning of his reign, he said, I am a Muslim. He gave freedom to Muslims and was strong against non-Muslims or kuffar, and many of Mongols also became Muslims at this time. Ghazan Khan. He paid attention to the Alawids, to the Sayyids. He paid attention to Mazarat, the pilgrimage sites of the Shia, and ziyarah of Imams. He helped the poor and needy Shia. He chose a Shia minister next to some Sunni ministers or ministers from Sunni school of Islam. He allocated some endowments for the shrines of Imams. And in some cities of Iran and Iraq, he established Darus Siyada, places called Darus Siyada, and it seems that this was for taking care of the Sayyids, and their needs and affairs. He coined the coins with the name of Imams, alayhimus salam, and he had a special attention to the shrine of Imam Raza alayhi salam. These are all signs that he was a Shia. Even it is said that he wanted to declare Shia Islam as the official madhab, but some of his ministers, said, no, you should not do this. He had a war with Egypt and he was defeated, and then in a very strange way and suspicious way, he was killed. It seems maybe people who were close, to him inside his darbar or family, they killed him. Then after Ghazan Khan, Oljaito, who was the son of Arghun, became the ruler. His mother was a Christian, and he was baptized as a child. But when he reached power, he became Muslim. Initially, he was Hanafi, and then he became Shia. He had lots of encounters with Allama Hilli. Even it reached a point that he asked Allama Hilli and his students to be with him when he even traveled. So maybe this is the first time, or maybe one of the first times, that we have a roaming seminary, roaming school. Allama and his talabe were, traveling and not stopping, learning and teaching and, mobiles, etc. But they didn't stop. So, inshallah, I will mention the story of how he became Shia later. One of the early signs of Shia becoming, official madhab of Iran was at the time of Oljaito, although he was not very successful, and then it took more till Safavids became, kings of Iran. They announced Shia Islam as the official school, but from the time of Ghazan Khan and then Oljaito, there were lots of progress. One of the things he did was that the khutbah or sermons that they used to make and recite in mosques for Jum'ah, for example, prayer, he removed the name of the first 3 caliphs and added the name of 12 imams. This is one of the things. He coined coins with the name of imams. He restored Hayya ala khayr al-amal in adhan. And as I said, he established a roaming madrasa for Allama Hilli students, and he himself was trying to be engaged and listen to Allama, invite other ulama to have mubahisah, discussion, munazara, debate. So he was trying to encourage and learn himself. Oljaito means someone who is a source of blessing, a source of goodness, or gives hope of goodness happens. We say in Arabic Maymun, or in Farsi we say Khoshyomn, someone who is bringing fortune. So this was the name that he had, but when he was baptized, they called him Nicola, after one of the saints and popes. But then later he became Muslim, and the name Sultan Muhammad Khudabande was given to him. He had another name also that because he they wanted to protect him from bad eye, they gave him, according to their customs, another name which was not very nice, but then he chose gave him the proper name. One important heading here is the relation between Allama Hilli and Al-Jatari, because it's very important. So in the book we have a special heading for this. After some kind of policies adopted by some religious leaders, unfortunately, sometimes there was a harsh attitude towards the Shia Muslims, unfortunately, although the rulers maybe themselves were not very much biased or very much sensitive, but unfortunately sometimes there were, for example, ministers, influential people who had great sectarian tendencies. For example, there was a person that was called Khaja Rashiduddin Fazlullah. Khaja Rashiduddin Fazlullah. He was a Shafi'i. Normally Shafi'is are open and they love Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam very much. But he encouraged the king to choose Nizamuddin Maraghi. Nizamuddin Maraghi, when he became chief Qazi, Qazi al-Quzat, chief Qazi of Iran, in Iran, and all mazahib were under him, he adopted some, harsh policies against others. And so little by little this made the king worried and was afraid that these sectarian wars can lead to sectarian wars. Anyway, at this time, Sa'aduddin Savuji, who was a Shia scholar, with the help of one of the commanders, Tarmataz, they encouraged Al-Jaito to become Shia, or at least to have more attention and interest in the Shia. And this Sa'aduddin Savuji paved the way for coming of Allama Hilli to Darbar, or to the palace of the king, and meeting the king. When Allama went, there was a munazara, ihtijaj, debate. Sometimes it was not dialogue. Sometimes it was dialogue, sometimes it was, debate. Debate is different from dialogue. We always say dialogue is different from debate. So sometimes leaders of different schools, they try to establish that their position was right. And many times they were targeting also the Shia as minority. But Allama Hilli managed to have very good, demonstration of Shia position, especially Imama, in front of people like Khaja Nizamuddin Maraghi, who was the chief Qazi and had, some sectarian policies. And little by little, the mind of the king was being prepared. Even Allama Hilli, after himself, introduced his son, who was a great mujtahid, Fakhrul Muhaqqiqin, so that the king knows him and benefits from his guidance. Allama also wrote 3 books on Aqaid and gifted to Al-Jaitu. So these all led to the school of Ahlul Bayt being recognized by the king, and little by little become more dominant in Iran. But the story which is very famous and you find in many books, I don't want to say whether this is a right way or wrong way. I personally would not make such a kind of arguments, but maybe our time is different from that time. Maybe at that time that was the only way, because Shia was so much under attack. Anyway, it is said that according to Mullah Muhammad Taqi Majlisi, father of Allama Majlisi, father of Allama Majlisi himself was great alim, and he has a commentary on Man La Yahduru al-Faqih by the late Sheikh Saduq. This story is not in the book because we don't want to have such things in the book as a textbook, but it's not maybe very challenging, but it's not in the book, but I'm mentioning from outside. Sultan Muhammad Khudaband once became very upset with his wife, and in one session said, Ante taliq thalathan, you are divorced 3 times. Then he regretted. He asked every scholar, every faqih of mazahib other than Shia. They said this is counted as 3 divorce, and the only solution if you want to marry her again is that she must be married to another person. We call it muhallil. And then if that person divorces her, you can marry her. This is a kind of punishment for those people who divorce their wives, once, twice, 3 times. Why you do this? Anyway, for the king, this was not acceptable, the wife of the king being married to someone else and then, again, divorced, etc. Is there any scholar who has different opinion? So some people said no, there is no. He heard that there is a scholar in Hilla in Iraq. He was near Zanjan. There is a famous place near Zanjan in Sultaniyeh that his tomb is there. So from there to Hilla is not a short distance. But he said, one of the ministers said, there is an alim in Hilla. He has different opinion. According to him, this divorce is not valid. He wanted to meet Allama Hilli, but some people said no, he has strange ideas, his mazhab is batil, etc. But he said no, I have to see him. So he invited Allama Hilli, and Allama Hilli felt responsible to travel and reach Sultaniyeh, which is just about around 30 kilometers away from Zanjan. There was a big majlis. The king organized a very big majlis, invited faqih of, big faqih and jurists of each mazhab, and then Allama entered. When Allama entered, he took his shoes with his hands, said salam, and went and sat next to the king. Some people who were there told the king, look how impolite he is. He's taking his shoes with his hands. He's not bending, bowing for the king, not doing sajda for the king, and sitting next to the king. There must be a distance. So the king said, ask himself. So they asked Allama Halli. Allama said, in Islam we don't, bow or do sajda for anyone other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even Rasulullah, who was the highest person in Islam, when people were going to visit him, they were not bowing in front of him. They were just saying Salamun alaykum. They were not, doing anything more than. So I said salam. This is the Islamic sunnah. I said salam. Then they asked, why did you sit next to the king? He said, because you should sit where there is a space. There was no space for me except maybe because he was late, or maybe some people especially had not, opened a space for him, thinking that perhaps he should sit, next to the shoes or whatever. But he said, when you enter majlis, one of the etiquette of majlis is sit where there is a space. Then they said, okay, why you took your shoes with your hand and carried your shoes with yourself? He said, I was worried that followers of Abu Hanifa, the Hanafites, may steal my shoes as Abu Hanifa stole the shoes of the Prophet. Hanafi scholars became very upset, and they said, this is impossible, because when Rasulullah passed away, Abu Hanifa was not yet born. How he could steal the shoes of the Prophet? So he said, for example, okay, sorry, it was Shafi'i. They said, Shafi'i was born when Abu Hanifa died. Abu Hanifa was born after the demise of the Prophet. With Shafi'i it's even worse, because Shafi'i was born when Abu Hanifa died, the same day. So he said, sorry, it was Malik. Malik, he said, Malik had more than 100 years distance, gap between him and Prophet. So he said, Ahmad ibn Hanbal. Hanbali said, no, he was, much later. Then at this time, Allama Halil turned to the king and said, did you see? They admitted that they follow 4 people, that they never met Prophet. They were born after the Prophet. And they are restricting themselves to fatwas of these 4 people, even if there is someone more knowledgeable than them. And they never met Rasulullah. But we follow Ali ibn Abi Talib, who was brought up by the Prophet, who was living with the Prophet, was the first man to embrace Islam. And then the king said, okay, let's go to the main topic. I have invited you for something very important. Is it possible to divorce 3 times in the same majlis, in the same session? Allama said, no. Your divorce was not valid. Why? Because there must be 2 adil, 2 just witnesses. Was there anyone other than you and your wife present? The king said no. So then divorce is void. Plus, you cannot divorce 3 times in one majlis. So even if 2 witnesses were present and you say anta taliq, this is counted as 1. Another time when there is another majlis gathering, there are 2 adil, the same people or other, but it has another gathering. Then it becomes second, for example, not in the one gathering, etc. So the king was very pleased. He saw the arguments, he saw the knowledge, he saw the intelligence of Allama Hadli, and therefore he realized that he is of a different level of knowledge, and then he became Shia. So he wanted to keep close distance with Allama and to be always with him. As I said, he wanted Allama even to be with him when he travels. And interestingly, he died in the same year as Allama Hadli, 726 Hijri Qamari. So here I want to make a comment. If Allama was afraid of going to the king and said, I should not go to the king. If king wants, to meet me, should come to me, for example, or run away from visiting the king, then such great opportunity would be lost. It is important to work on people, not only people who have power. And they say that Sayyid Jamaluddin Asadabadi Rizwanullah Ta'ala, they say towards the end of his life, he was regretting that he had spent lots of time on meeting the rulers of Muslim countries. And he said, if I had spent this time on people was better. But maybe this was out of his humbleness, because I believe if you manage to have even a little impact on people who have power, it makes big difference. We should not restrict ourselves to them. We should not, be, biased towards them, or, for example, try to please them, with whatever, they want. No, you should stand with your values, but be able to be also making good rapport with the people who have power. Just look at this example of Allama, how much it changed the history, how much pressure was removed from the Shia, how much knowledge was spread. So this was also a comment that I thought I would make. One of the things that we find is development of Islamic civilization and its manifestations like architect in Ilkhanid era. Unfortunately, Mongols initially destroyed many things. The story which we have here for the people who want to know more is a very sad story. Let me mention this story right now. So Changiz Khan, who was from Mongolia and the head of these Mongol rulers, he didn't want to have a kind of bad relation with Iran. He actually wanted to have good relation with Iran. But unfortunately, mistreatment of Iranian king of that time, Sultan Muhammad Khwarazm Shah, created problem and led to his attack. The story, as historians say, was that Genghis Khan, when he established himself in Mongolia and around, then he wanted to have a kind of exchange for trade and friendship with Iran. He sent some people to the city of Otrar, but the governor of that city, Ghayer Khan, it is said, unfortunately put them in prison and took the gifts and asked the king, Sultan Muhammad Khwarezmshah, to issue command for killing them. The king unfortunately trusted him, said confiscate their money, their belongings, and kill them. Genghis, when received this news, was very upset and asked the king of Iran to give him or submit to him this governor, this local governor. But the king not only didn't accept, again killed the messenger of Genghis Khan. So Genghis Khan decided to attack Iran. So he killed this Ghayer Khan, the local governor, looted houses of people, killed many people, and destroyed many cities. It was a big tragedy. He was forcing the youths to join his army, and if there were people who had skills, sending them to Mongolia to help them. All because of mistakes in not appreciating his offer of friendship and having good trade relation. It's one of the tragedies what they did, Mongols, So they killed people, they destroyed many places, they destroyed many mosques, many schools, burned lots of books. Even later, when, for example, Khaja Nasiruddin Tusi and others, tried to revive, some historians say still damage was so high that they couldn't reach the point before Mongol attacks. But what is interesting anyway, even these Mongols who were so strong and brutal that no one could maybe easily resist, they embraced themselves Islam. They saw so much beauty in Islam that they embraced Islam, and some of them even became Shia, and little by little they changed. Okay, this is our discussion about Ilkhanids, and inshallah in the next session we will talk inshallah about another group, and that is Sarbedaran, who ruled from 736 to 783 of Hijri Qamari. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin.